We are not punished for our sins, but by our sins. My father takes pills like candy before church service Sunday morning. He drags me to the first pew, front and center, as if God is watching and he has something to prove. He passes out 20 minutes into service. The pastor pretends not to notice. I ask my father at a party if I can spend the night with a friend. He is standing up, eyes slack, drooling. I stare up at him. This man is 6 foot, 6 inches, a mountain towering above me. I am waiting for someone to shout timber before he crashes to the floor, but he doesn't. He mumbles something under his breath. I don't even recall what I asked, only that my heart is racing. A year later, I see him passed out at the top of the stairs, breathing heavily. 6 foot, 6 inches, looks so different horizontally, not a mountain anymore, but an ocean. He is drowning in himself. He is barely able to speak. He says, "Go away. I don't want you to see me like this," as if it is the first time. And he leaves in an ambulance. My family is bitter. We are grown now. My sister says addiction is not a disease, it is a choice. She spits her words. 2 years later, she is a single mother using vodka as an anesthetic, trying to kill the parts of my father growing inside of her. She calls me crying at night, and I never seem to have the words she needs to hear. 2017, my brother calls me from school, panicking, says he doesn't know what he took. He does this all the time. It's nothing but a little fun, but his heart's racing. I have never heard him sound afraid before. I pick him up, tell my mom he came home with a headache, and I see a flyer on the fridge with his name on it. It is a class called Coping with Anxiety, and I wonder how long he's been keeping his battles a secret. I start to see my father and him more every day, and I am afraid. I sit in NA with the same girl who wouldn't even smoke pot with me in high school. It is her second time out of rehab for methamphetamine. I hold her hand while people take turns speaking. An old man says something that will stick with me for life. He is tired, rubs his weathered hands together, and says through tears, "We are not punished for our sins, but by our sins." We are not punished for our sins, but by our sins. I think about this in depth as I consider everyone that I have loved and watched in this struggle. I think about the time my friend broke his 6-month sobriety and I watched a grown man crumble to the floor and wails knowing he has failed his 4-year-old daughter. He says he doesn't know if his existence betters or worsens her own and considers taking his own life. My father lives alone. He complains his children don't check in. I think about the man that he is in the spaces in between. The days I spent with him at work, or how excited I would get after school to hear his truck outside. I think about how he always smelled like oil, mint gum, and cologne after a long day, and now he loved learning about gladiators, and I wonder now if that's a metaphor. I think about the tears he shed at church, how he would fall to his knees and ask for prayers that fell on deaf ears. I think about the days he would disappear and none of us knew when he'd be back. I think about how sad it is that the good days start to become overshadowed by the bad ones. I think about how easy it is to forget that they ever even happened. My friends and I argue sometimes if they say addiction is not a disease. I think, wow, you are so lucky to have the privilege of not having demons hard enough to kill that you don't mind killing yourself in the process. We are not punished for our sins, but by our sins. I am not religious when he says this, but I think to myself, fuck, that makes so much sense.